Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Everyone is Addicted. Today's guest, Vincent, has graciously come on to talk about his knowledge and his experience with addiction and what he's doing now to try to help others. So, welcome, Vincent. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. For me, it's nice because I've been always interviewing and now somebody's interviewing me. So it's a nice switch.
Sometimes I'll do guesting instead because it's like, oh, I get to tell my story.
Yeah, exactly.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll go from there, I guess, and see where the conversation takes us.
Cool. Well, I'm Vincent Haasboom. I'm 39 and I live in the Netherlands, and my journey really started from a young age. I got rejected by my mom and I just put it away. And on the age of 12 and 30, I started to get an addiction with pornography. And the first time that it started was some of my school friends said like, "Hey, you need to watch porn. It's really great." And I said to myself, "Well, I need to try it. I need to see what it's like." And I remember the day that I did it, and it was just so much dopamine, and I was hooked completely. And every single day I watched, every single day I masturbated for decades, and it was my escape. It was my way of coping, and I didn't realize it in the beginning, but it was so intense, so much pleasure, and it was so hard for me to quit.
Well, like even from like my standpoint, before I used to masturbate like 10 times a day and I never really seen it like for what it was. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't use pornography, I used my imagination, but it's still the same kind of thing. It's just you get that dopamine hit, that dopamine hit, that dopamine hit. And then I eventually moved on to other things. So that's how that kind of ended, was because I found other ways to numb myself and cope with stress in life and things like that. But I totally understand that, exactly that hit of dopamine and you're like, and it also just, like you said, takes everything here and throws it away, you know? But
Yeah, what I also, yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, so what was it that made you like come to the conclusion that you needed to stop or needed to find a different way?
It was because I didn't have any dating life. So I was so much behind porn and behind my computer. Playing video games was another addiction. I was playing video games like
That's the
days
biggest
after days
addiction.
after days.
My son has that addiction. I try to break it up, but I can't. But yeah, anyway, sorry.
And for me, it was so bad that I woke up, get in behind my computer or Xbox, PlayStation. I had it all, and I just played from the morning. And I went downstairs to eat something, and I went up in my room and just locked myself up and playing video games. And there was a moment in my life that I said, or a higher self gave me the message actually that said, you need to quit, you need to get help. And it was during me playing the video game, and I just put my controller down and was looking around me like, where is this voice coming from? And I realized it's something is calling me to quit. So I then went to my parents the next day and I said to them like, hey, I need to change. I need to get help. And they were baffled. They were just looking at me like, okay. So the next couple of days, I went to see the doctor. I explained my situation. And then a couple of weeks later, he sent me to group therapy. And from there, everything started to change. I started to understand where it's coming from. I understood the packages, my backpack, and where the trauma was coming from. But it didn't really give me why. It was just stepping stones for me get awareness. But I didn't have any girlfriends, so there was always that I wanted to have. girlfriends and meeting women because of the rejection and the fear and anxiety. I didn't go out. I just stand in a corner hoping for a girl walking to walk up to me and have a conversation. But as a man, we have to walk up to the women and start a conversation. But I was terrified. I was shaking in my legs. I couldn't move. I was shaking and it was awful. So in that moment was also I need to get help. I need to change. But the actual reason was really the higher self. But what happened afterwards was once I started with the healing, I became addicted to self-development. So I was starting reading books. I was going to courses. I was getting coaches, hiring coaches. But what I was doing, I was building walls for myself not to get hurt. So I believed if
Mhm.
I consume so many books,
Yep.
a lot of courses, that I would build this wall and no girl can reject me, no girl can hurt me.
Well,
And
I
it
was
was just a wall for me to protect myself.
I did the same thing by studying psychology in school to try to figure out what was wrong with me, but I can't give myself a mental health assessment, like honestly, right? And it was honestly just putting up walls because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I have this wrong with me and that wrong with me. And so I had like the same kind of behavior. Like I had agoraphobia, which means you're afraid of leaving your house, right? And
Mhm.
so I understand that shaking and that like, ooh, anxiety, fear, and like just hoping that, you know, like something will go well through a conversation and just, you know what I mean? Like I understand that so well because like I was bullied, so I was afraid to leave the house because I was afraid of negative interactions. And I didn't know how to have positive interactions. So I was also the person in the corner because I was afraid to talk to people myself. So I understand that aspect and eat like that's where I say like people with addictions, they don't have to be the same at all, but we can all connect on a certain level like that, you know? And I think though that in a way it is a more positive thing by reading all those books with self-development because it does provide you with a lot more tools and coping mechanisms than like hiding behind video games and porn, you know?
Absolutely. It really transformed my life because I gained so much knowledge. I've learned so much in the last 10 years that I started. But in the beginning, I was really building a wall. I wanted to keep myself safe, and safety was really something that I believed that was really important. Even though I was unaware, for me, safety was so important because the fear of rejection, everybody hates the fear of rejection, but I had to change the mindset. So, for example, if I, for rejection, I would like, oh no, what if she rejects me, or what if this, and what if this? It was always what if. But now I'm learning to change like, okay, if she rejects me, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we're not meant to be together. Or if I say yes or she says no and we go on a date, or if she says yes and I'm not sure and we go on a date, it wouldn't be nice or it wouldn't be good for me to spend so much time and money with her. So rejection was is also a good thing. But
Mhm.
the fear was so intertwined in my life, in myself, in the fear that I couldn't put any layers on it. I didn't understand what was happening. But on my journey, I really realized it's the body keeps the score. It was really the trauma that prevented me from doing the things that I wanted. My body was always keeping me
Mhm.
still. I
It
couldn't move.
holds
I
the
couldn't do
trauma.
anything.
Your body holds the trauma until you learn how to release it. And I know that anxiety so well. I've had anxiety issues my whole life, and I can only imagine how much anxiety you truly felt because of all of this. And just like, I know where your mind just starts going off, like, oh, well, what if this and what if that? And yeah, like I could only imagine, and especially like, because men have, like you said, have to approach the woman. Your brain's just going nuts. I mean, especially if you haven't had much experience with it, I can only imagine how hard it was for you to try to break this cycle. So, I mean, I commend you on at least trying. And obviously pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, because that's even in itself hard to do, and rejection is definitely something I have felt, and it has been something that has made me relapse numerous times in my own sobriety in the past. So I know that rejection is one of the worst feelings, but listening to you say that, it's true because um you're not meant to be with that person. It truly is, because I was rejected by somebody. I seen him 10 years later at a meeting and taught like spoke with him a little bit, and I was like, I was not meant to be with this person. And so that rejection I took so hard, really, I wasn't meant to be with them. So you're like so right with that. And you have to use that in your head and be like, it just isn't supposed to be my person?
Absolutely. It's really the mindset that I really learned on my journey. I know it was the body. I went 1.5 year ago, I went to see a psychologist. He also did EMDR, and it helped me so much. It really helped me to release the trauma that was really in the driver's seat constantly. Like you said, every time I saw a girl that I was attracted to, triggers. Just no, 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 fear, fear, danger, danger. And now with the EMDR, it's like, okay, I still feel it, but I can still walk up to her now and just start a conversation. Still, the mind is like, blah, blah, no, 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 blah. But I still try to learn to, okay, put the brain out, like, okay, it's enough.
And in a box over
And
here.
exactly, put on your seat and shut up, and I will do my thing, and I will see how it goes. But we've been so conditioned by the mind and listening to it because it wants to keep us safe. The number one priority is to keep us safe. So do business or podcasting or walk to a girl that you're attracted to, it's all danger in the mind because it can be possible of killed or by a tribe. When we go back in the tribe time, it's still the same as today. The mind thinks we're still in the tribe, not how we evolved. So we still operate from that age, and women are still operate from the same age as that as well. So it's also the psychology of understanding how the mind and the brain works and really diffuse it and say,
Hmm.
okay, put on your seat, put on your seat, put you on your seat. You have to do it. You have to train yourself. It's not like, okay, I put you on your seat and now I'm in control. You need to say, okay, sit, 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 sit. But once you're gonna learn and understand, okay, I'm in control, life becomes a lot easier. In the beginning, it was tough, like you said. Walking up to somebody, you still feel the anxiety, still feel the fear, but I say it's positive. It's positive feeling. It's not like in the beginning. I've changed. I'm not the person that I was 10 years ago. I'm now different. So I have to learn and do things different. I'm also introverted. I'm highly sensitive. I'm an empath. So that was also things that I had to learn and cope with them.
Has that
So,
agoraphobia issue, like I said too, right? So I get you on that. Crowds are fun.
so yeah, it's amazing. I sometimes I feel the world on top of my shoulders, or I cry and or I'm angry and I don't know why. It can be difficult, but I cannot change it. I cannot flip off the switch and say I'm not that anymore. So I have to deal with it. I have to
Yeah,
learn
you
with it.
can't just pick up whatever you're like. For me, it was I would use alcohol to shut it off, or opiates for a little while to shut it off, because I couldn't deal with it. And I also had those anxious thoughts of all the negativity, like you said, so that I had both of those things going on in my head. And I haven't done EMDR therapy myself, but I've heard from so many people that have gone through it that it is an incredibly good way to be able to release all of the trauma, all of the past, and be able to change, I guess you could say.
Yeah, what I've discovered with EMDR, it's really powerful, like you mentioned. But what it does with the eye movement. So you go back into the trauma where you lived it in the beginning, and then he brings it and he says, okay, what do you feel? And it was so crazy because I was sitting in the chair and he brought it back, the trauma, and I said to him, I feel exactly the same way when I look at a woman or I'm close to somebody. I feel just my legs just nailed to the ground. I was shaking and it just baffled me like how she's not there's no women in the room and still my body responds to it like that. So I knew it was really the body was really keeping hold of the trauma and that I had to do a lot of work with that. I did like 10, 20 sessions and it was so deep ingrained in my body and it took a long time for me to change that. The body also needed to heal and I always felt it in the heart because it stores pain, anxiety, maybe your parents say that you're not good enough or they
Mm.
beat you, your body keeps it all tightened, all in the heart, all in your system. So it's really powerful. I highly recommend to do the EMDR, especially if you did a lot of things and you don't know any way that you can help. I highly recommend that you check it out because it changed my life completely and it's really, really powerful. It's hard because in the beginning, when he did the session with me, I just broke down. I started to cry and he said, okay, the EMDR is effective. So let's keep going. And after that, I was so sick. I was in my bed and I felt fever and my body had to go through this process. But
Bringing that
what it
out.
does is the release. Yeah.
Yeah. That I'm like I had a I just the funny thing is to mention EMDR is because I just interviewed a woman who had severe abuse issues, like she had been abused severely through most of her life, and she was explaining the same effect that the EMDR had on her, but at the same time, the EMDR was effective. It was just the first time she experienced it, she said the same thing. Like she was shaking. She didn't know how to necessarily handle it. It was like you said, like right back to that place. And I think if you're new to sobriety, I probably wouldn't suggest it. But like if you're okay with being able to go back and, you know, actually deal with your PTSD and trauma, then that's when it's going to work. If you're still afraid of reliving that, I mean, I think that it would be hard to go through. Like, it's definitely something that once I get settled into our new house, I'm going to be looking into because, like, I do therapy and I do group therapy as well, but nothing to that degree. And just from talking to you and talking to her recently, I'm like, wow, this is something that I think would benefit me as well. So it's nice to hear somebody else talk about it because it really reiterates the fact that it is a really good type of therapy. If you're, because we really do hold it here. We really, really do. Like, I mean, if, like, in the situation I'm in now, it brings back things from when I was younger. And like you said, I'll just get upset, I'll cry, and I don't understand why, but I know that it's because of this, right? And so I need to do the same thing in order to fully come full circle, and like not um have trauma bubble up, and cause that anxiety it's overwhelming, and you can't push forward, and that's where the blocks come in to, like you said, becoming successful in whatever you're trying to do because you still have that trauma that's holding you there. At least that's how I feel with like my own experiences with trauma, right? Like I do trauma-based therapy, but it's still not like the EMDR kind of therapy where you really go back and look at all of the things that have really gone on. And I know I still hold it in me to some degree, especially like I'll lash out at people if they say something to me because I was bullied. And then all of a sudden I'll want to go and hide somewhere. So yeah, I need to do that. But
Yeah, the thing that I want to add is when you start with EMDR, you have to be honest with yourself because I was postponing it. My psychologist says, okay, let's do it today. Like, no, 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 I'm not feeling good today. Just maybe another day. And he said, like, no, you need to do it now, or you're gonna postpone it. And now, okay, yeah, yeah, let's do it. And it was hard, but it was for me. I didn't want to go there because it will bring you to the pain, and that's
Mhm.
what people are afraid of. Go back to the pain. Go back to the shadow side.
I've
But
already
the
been in
only
pain,
way to heal
so.
is really go into the shadow in the shadow side, face your traumas. And it's hard in the beginning. And I had a guest also, she said, I don't like that people go through the trauma again. But I said, this really helped me. And yeah, there's multiple ways, there's a lot of ways, but in that moment, I had to go through it because, like you mentioned, there was always this blockage. I couldn't move forward. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. There was always this fear, always these triggers. And I said to myself, this is so strange because in my head, I can say, okay, I'm just going to walk up to her and just have a conversation. But my body was just like, no, no, stay here. It's not safe. And then it just hit me like, it's the body. It's not
Mhm.
always the mind. It's the body that really want to keep me safe. So I really say, if you feel that you wanted to change or do something about it, look the body up because the body is really powerful. The body knows a lot. It is super intelligent. So start there. Start and go to the trauma. Start go to the source because we as people we always want to look for answers, but we only put a layer of like, oh, so we have only this brush off and now we're done. But we need to go deeper. That's also what you see with medication. People take a pill and they think they're done, but they never go to the source because it's too painful. So we avoid it, or we drink, or we do something else just not to see the pain. I understand it's hard, it's difficult, but if you really want to change, you have to do the work and do the shadow work.
And yeah, like because I like working in like the metaphysical industry, I've done a lot of shadow work, right? Where you know what that is where you're really take a hard look at yourself and you have to be ready for it. But yeah, like you have to be honest with yourself, and that's the only way you can really release. So that's how I've been able to release some of it from my body, but not all of it. You know what I mean? Because I need somebody to kind of help guide me through that aspect. But I that's where I think there's the gap with the support groups and the 12-step programs is they don't do the underlying portion of it. And I think we all have underlying like so yes, they're there for sobriety and for there for us to talk when we need to talk, but there's still more, like you said, in the body, in the mind that we're not addressing in those kind of meetings that we do need to dig deeper, and that's where the gap is. And that's why I like to talk to different people about how they found sobriety because I feel like everybody hits that wall after, the first 6 months of rainbow and sunshine, rose colored glasses, and life hits, and you're like, how do I overcome this? And I think definitely EMDR is one of the big ones, but I mean, everybody's unique, whatever helps you. But I still think you have to dive deeper than just, because you're still going to have that trauma. You're still going to have those triggers still in your body, still have the anxiety. Even if you take anxiety medication, which I have, I still get anxious. So it's not like it takes anxiety away because it's still there. And like you said, my body's still trying to keep me safe. So no matter how much medication I take, it doesn't help, right? So you really do have to do something that fits you and that really helps you figure out who you are and how to release the past, I guess. 'Cause the past is really what blocks us from having a better future. And so, after doing all of that kind of stuff, did you find that you are more now able to speak with women, or is that still something that you struggle with?
Yeah, it's still a struggle, but it's really the mind because the body is now more calmer. I have more peace, but the mind is still wants to take control. So I have to be in balance with the mind. And like you said, like when the mind is talking, it's like, okay, sit down. I have still have to do it. My psychologist always says like, you have to do it. You have to do it. Put them in the chair. But then in the moment, I just listen to the voice and like, oh yeah, maybe another day. But afterwards, I beat myself up. Like, why didn't I talk to her? Why didn't you just go up to her and just say hi? So yeah, it's a thing that I have to learn,
Mhm.
but those small steps, and it's really awareness. That's really what I've learned, to be aware of when the monkey mind is talking, and say, okay, put it on your chair and just go, not like talk with your head like, oh no, but this is no, put it in the chair, go. No time to think. So
I
yeah, I'm still having my struggles with it because I don't have a lot of experience with women. So I'm still a baby in that area. But I had a choice, and that choice was, what will it cost me again if I don't do anything? I can spend years and years reading books, years and years having dating coaches, but in the end, I have to do it. And it cost me years and years of not doing anything. And
regret
I
probably,
knew it.
right? Like,
Sorry?
which I probably causes you regret too because you're like, oh, I like, cause like I'm 37, right? So I get the age thing. You're like, your clock's ticking, your clock's ticking, your clock's ticking. You're like, oh, you know. But
For women, yeah.
I still like, you know what I had to do? I was afraid to talk to people, right? So what I had to do was work. I worked in restaurants in the front of the house as either a bartender, manager, or server, and it forced me to talk to people. And it took about 20 years for me to actually be able to talk freely and be like extra. I'm not extroverted, but I can be fake extroverted, I guess you can say. Do you know what I mean?
Fake it till you
But
make it.
yeah, so it took me like 20 years to really learn that skill so I can see like I can see why it takes a while to get to that point, especially after so many years of that voice in your head, right? So I commend you on constantly still pushing through because a lot of people just give up, and you definitely haven't. Um, but you have a podcast, you said, and you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I have a show called How to Heart. And with the How to Heart show, I bring guests on, but also I talk about my own experience. So the things that I learn, the things that I've experienced also with women and fears and journey. But the reason that I wanted to do this podcast was because of agendas. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of men putting in boxes, women putting in the boxes. Men needs to be women, women needs to be men. And I got sick of it. So I said, I have to make a change. I have all this knowledge, I have all these experiences that I've learned. So I said, I have to do something about it. I have to start speaking. I have to share my, or not my knowledge. The knowledge is universal, but what I've learned, I have to share it with other people. Plus, it also was therapy for me because I could vent, I could share and what I was going through. But I felt it was so important because I've seen so many men struggling as I did when I was in my 20s, 30s, and they're really confused. They're really lost. They have no purpose. They just follow the herd. They just do what social media is telling them, what corrupt governments is telling them. So I said, I have to do something about it. So that's how my journey with my podcast started. But it was really difficult because when I started, I think for you it's the same. Once I started with this podcast, I struggled a lot. I was in this. I've been also been a perfectionist, so I was everything needs to be perfect. My videos, how I talked, everything needs to be spot on because I was so afraid of the rejection or people not gonna like my show or how I talk or whatever. So I wanted to have everything perfect. But then I realized this is so stupid because I'm just this small. There's not
Mhm.
many people will listen to me. So I do all this overwork. I just close to burnouts and I
Oh
told
my
myself
gosh, I know.
I have to let go. I have to let go of the outcome. I have to let go of everything. And also I realized I have to go, I do need to do the healing because before the podcast I didn't do any healing. Just 1.5 year ago, then I started with this psychologist. So after the EMDR and everything, I felt so much better, a lot more anxiety, clear mind, or I felt more relaxed. Anxiety was less. I just clear mind. I can be focused again. So I'm doing good now. Still, I have my struggles like everybody else, but I'm moving up. I'm moving forward. But really, I'm really passionate about my podcast, talking with guests, and sharing what I've learned and insights, and it's really who I'm meant to be. I always say everything that happened in my life happened for me because it made me who I am today. So if I didn't go all these through this all these traumas, experiences, I couldn't tell you about it. I couldn't share you about it. So the podcast has been a huge help for me to share what I've been through and help other people going through the same. So they have the tools, the things that they can try to do them for themselves. I said to myself, I wanted to help everybody, everyone. But in the end, I said, I can't because in the end, people are standing in front of a door. I'm standing next to them and they have to go through it themselves. And they need to be their own leaders. They need to be their own authentic self, living from the heart, not just what mom or dad wants or what the government wants or
Have
the
to
system
want.
wants, what you want.
And I think
Exactly.
like you said, going back to like even like caveman times, we've had these roles kind of instilled in us all the way, even through the Bible, all that kind of stuff. Men have to be a certain way, women have to be a certain way, and being able to bring on other people, especially men, because they don't really get that space to have feelings. Do you know what I mean? So by having us, giving them a space to have feelings and to maybe share that, it's cathartic, like it helps them let go a little bit. It helps them feel like I'm not alone. I just I know that through just with men in my own life. Like my dad never ever cried, even though there's times he should have cried, and the only time I think I've ever seen him cry was when he was intoxicated once and I got gotten in a car accident where I could have passed away. And that's the only time I ever seen him cry. He was holding the hubcap up and then he was like, oh, I almost lost you. And he like put it up on the wall or whatever. And he was crying. And I never seen him cry. He's passed now, but like for his 62 years of life, I only ever seen him cry once. And that I know he lost his mom, his dad, his sister throughout my life, and he didn't cry, even at their funerals. And that's something that is was ingrained in him through his own father was men don't cry. Men don't have feelings. Men have to be this and that. And that is what is blocking them from, like you said, like being able to just do what they're passionate about, do what they want, because you're holding that in your body and you're holding that in your mind. And so I love that you're giving people a space to actually express themselves. And I think through your own experience, like you said, it makes people open up to you a lot more, because you're so honest about the
Connect.
things that have been blocking you or have plagued you throughout your life. It makes the walls come down. It makes it you're like so much more approachable, than somebody that hasn't experienced that. I know that just from going to counselors that haven't necessarily they've just gone out of college. They're younger than me. They are very textbook. I can't connect with them. Do you know what I mean? But like that's the thing. People who have experienced real life trauma, you can connect with them because you don't feel afraid to talk to them about the bad stuff, So I think that what you're doing is really, really amazing. How long have you been doing it for?
With the podcasting now for 1.5 year, I think, yeah. But in the beginning, before my podcast journey, I was always posting my journey and I was a lot of in this victim mentality was why is it happening to me? Why do I feel like this? Why that? And why I cannot date women and blah blah blah. I was just in this victim mentality. But I just said I need to change. I need to if I'm stuck in the negative, then I will attract negative things. I have to change. I have to vibe. I have to feel the positive vibes and feel good, then I will attract positive things. But I've been doing it now for 1.5 years, and it really this really is my passion. This is really what I need to do, or what I meant to do. And what I want to add is what you said about men sharing their feelings, is because we hold it in. We don't let it out. Like you said, we're not man enough. Men are, and we're not allowed to cry. And I said, why is this so? I said to myself, why is this so hard for men not to do? And I've seen documentaries that men didn't do it and they went violent. They went in gangs. They steal. They beat people up because they have
What?
nobody to talk to. They have no role model. I didn't have My father was no role model, so I have no one to hold up to, nobody to share me how to be a man. So I said, I have to be the first, then be the first to show that I cry, show that I'm vulnerable, show that I have go through pain, that I have a hard time as a man, that I still have anxiety when I see women, but I don't give up on myself. I just keep going. And that's what I want to say to people. Don't give up on yourself. You have a story, you have something really powerful inside of you, and you just don't think you're good enough because of fears or society or what your parents did to you or not. It doesn't matter. You have the responsibility now to change your life, and nobody else is going to do it for you. You have to do it and take action.
That's where like once you get rid of that victim mentality, because like I'll slip back into it when something really bad happens and I don't understand the why until my higher power shows it to me. I will maybe slip back into it a little bit, but I catch myself because I hate victim mentality because my mother is very, very good at it, right? So I can catch myself very easily and I'm like, okay, nope, gotta not do that, gotta think this way, you know what I mean? But um that like yeah, once you get rid of that victim mentality and you're able to actually open up in a way that's actually truly your feelings and not just something that is a surface level feeling, you know what I mean? Like that's what I would say my victim mentality would be. It would be very surface level, like a jealousy aspect of something like that, right? So it's something that I know is very surface level and it's not something that I am truly affected by or truly, truly deep in my heart feel or cry about, right? It's just a surface level feeling. It passes, and I just have to make sure that I realize that because it's usually envy for me, right? I'll be envious of somebody, especially just because I've gone through a lot of trauma. So when I see other people, I'll become envious of them and their life, right? And but I don't really know what's going on behind closed doors, and I have to tell myself that yeah, it might look shiny on social media, but is that really their life? So should I really sit here and beat myself up because I'm not them? You know what I mean? And like I am the same way. Like I just want to help people in all areas of like I said, like with gaps, like where the with your sharing that you have a podcast where men can come and actually express themselves. There's a gap, and that's what I want people to see and know that they can come and find some sort of relief, you know, where when you like our society or our government tells us, oh, you just need to go to meetings or you just need to go to counseling or you need to go to detox or you need to go to rehab or they don't really tell you how to they don't really guide you, you know what I mean? So listening to somebody else's journey, like you said, even with your own podcast, it makes people feel like I'm not alone. I can open up and I can be myself and I can finally start to try to heal. And even like from listening to your journey, they're going to be like, oh, maybe I'll try that therapy. That might work for me. Or even listening to him be so honest about himself Now, maybe I can be honest about myself and not hide it. It's not wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm not bad. You know what I mean? Like the negative self-talk that we tend to have when it comes to feelings, especially, right? And even like people, like I find a lot of women that have had pornography addictions or sex addictions have a really, really hard time talking about it, right? So when I come on and I talk to them and I tell them about some of the experiences of my own, the walls come right down and then they're like, okay, well, we start talking and you click, right? And it's even like with you and I, well, I would say I had a sex addiction and a masturbation addiction, but I didn't have a porn addiction, but it's still similar areas and I know how that feels and I know why you do it and all of that kind of stuff. So being able to connect with people, especially nowadays through podcasts and through just support groups that are out there, it's just there's just so much healing out there that a lot of people don't think about until they hear of it. So like for me, that's why I do this because I want to share with other people that there's like getting better is not just linear. There's so many ways, whatever's unique to who you are, and showing that some like especially for men, I swear my husband, I have to pull it out of him. Like I pull it out of him. He gets so frustrated because I can see that he's upset, but he's just so programmed to not hide it, right? So I'll pull it, 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 and finally he'll tell me. And it's like torture just trying to pull it out of him. So that's why I love so much that you're spreading that awareness of I am who I am. I have emotions and so do you. So that's like great. Um, and do you find, so do you just interview men or do you talk to women as well?
I
Think
also bring women on the show. Yeah.
it's a full circle kind of thing then, right?
Yeah, I decided to also bring women on because women also they're really intuitive, so they can spot a man's like you said, you can see it right away. So women are more intuitive than men, but women also go through the same as men, but women can share the emotions better. And some guests that I had on, they had really good insights and they can bring a lot of perspectives or things that I didn't know as a man or a guest men as guests they cannot tell me. So I want to bring everybody on that can still benefit somebody because our interview may not be reach other people, but if I show to my audience, maybe they resonate, or if vice versa, if you share it with your audience, like, well, what is he talking about? I don't care. So it doesn't really matter. Everybody has something important to share. Everybody has something important to tell, and it will plant a seed in somebody, and maybe he will do something and maybe not. It's all up to them. But if I can just change their mind or their mindset, then it will be good enough for me. But the problem is also what you see is the mindset and the dynamics also with the masculine and the feminine, because men think they only have the masculine, but not the feminine. But we have both. And I was so in my feminine, I was really feminized. I was really the same with women. I was not taking the lead. I was comforting them, like, hey, are you okay? Did I do something wrong? If she was upset, like, hey, do you need something? I was so nice to them. And it just like, boom, rejection, because I was not in my masculine. As a man, you need to be a leader. You need to take the lead, not like grab her hand and say, hey, we're gonna go this way and be really this rude, but say, okay, let's go this way and take her hand and just walk in a gentle way. Or hey, let's do this tonight. Or hey, I want to plan a date for us this. Women wants to be relaxed in the feminine, also being the masculine, but women are now being pushed in the masculine, like, hey, I don't need a man, I can take care of myself, I can make my own money. It doesn't work like that. She also needs the masculine and I need the feminine. But because I was so in my feminine, I was just chaos. I also had a toxic relationship. She was so in her masculine and I was in my feminine, fighting, constantly fighting. And she was also toxic and she has problems.
Also,
Same as me.
because you don't have a whole lot of experience with women, that women would easily take advantage of you. Like, not to be rude,
True.
but I just picked that up that you, because of the lack of experience and of how kind and also slightly introverted, that women would smell that and be like, oh, I can take advantage
Easy
of
target.
them, right? Like they'll do whatever I want them to do. Like, and I don't mean
Exactly.
it as a negative thing, but I know men who have like less experience with women or just are a little bit shy around women. Those are the ones that women eat alive, and I would never want to see that happen to you because you are such a kind person. So it's like I just really hope, well, I really know that you have grown, which is great because when you first started talking, I was like, oh, right. Like I just know how women are, and somebody like you who is so nice and so down to earth and so just like willing to help people and don't have the experience of knowing when somebody's taking a woman might be taking advantage of you could lead to toxicity, right? And like you did say, you did have some toxic relationships, especially like that's what I mean with a woman being more masculine and trying to be like, oh, well, you need to buy me this, or you know what I mean? But I just think that I I mean, it could happen and it does happen. And I'm glad that you've been working the last year or so on yourself with that because I like our age, I just really wouldn't want to see somebody take advantage of somebody that's really just there to be a good person, it's horrible.
Yeah, but it's also setting boundaries, and I didn't do that. I was so afraid to say no. If somebody took advantage of
My
me or
problem.
used me, abused me, I didn't say anything. I just let it happen. I was afraid to say no because then I would be in conflict. I have to stand my ground. I have to talk it out or walk away. And my only coping was avoid walking away, run as fast as I could. So I had to learn, okay, now I'm going through this. I felt so much anxiety also when people get angry. I
Yeah,
feel it. I just
I can't
boom.
handle it. I have to, I get my anxiety rises like this,
Exactly.
even if it's not towards me and I can hear somebody yelling in the house. Like right away,
Exactly. It's the trigger.
I start
Boom.
cleaning. I start cleaning. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, oh yeah. No, I
But
think our personalities are relatively similar. That's why I kind of foreseen that because I've been taken advantage of really badly, like really, really, really badly, like for hundreds of thousands of dollars badly because I can't say no and I can't set boundaries and I can't don't like conflict. Like I don't like it at all and I'll shut down. I won't, you know what I mean?
same.
So it ends up with me being taken advantage of and then I hate myself for that when really that person did it to me. But I know if I would have said no, it wouldn't have happened. And so it's all like such a growing and learning experience, especially being people that are more wallflowers than, like the charmers, you know what I mean? So like I have a friend who's extremely charming. I don't understand how he is that way, but I can't be that way. So I just watch him and I try to learn from how he talks to people sometimes. So I'm like, well, I gotta learn from you how to just be me, like be able to do that, right? Like I said with serving, yes, I learned how to talk to people, but I didn't really learn how to talk to people and like actually get to know people. I just learned how to not just hide in my house away from everybody all the time, right? So that was the force of that. But to actually set boundaries and stop people pleasing is something that I have been heavily working on lately because I have majorly been taken advantage of, and I let it slide. I don't. If I'm afraid to ask somebody a question because I'm afraid they're going to blow up on me, and it
Same here.
I avoid it, right? And it's just the avoidance ends up making everything so much worse, right? I wouldn't be in the situation I am today if I would have just stood up for myself a year ago. You know what I mean? And I guess I have to accept that, right? But
You know, everything happens for a reason. I've been scammed like one year ago, and it was because I didn't say no. I let it happen. So it was expensive. It cost me 3,000 euros. But instead of beating myself up, yeah, I felt bad. But instead of beating myself up, I said, what can I learn from this? Why did this happen? Because it was a girl. She was in the right moment for me, the right time to learn this. It was really difficult because I was planning on vacation and I lost a lot of money and I had like 1,000 left. And it was hard, but it made me grow so much stronger about what I'm capable of, how I deal with situations. So everything happens for a reason, and it's up to us how we deal with it and how we decide to do it. We can, like you said, be in victim mode, blaming ourselves. Well, why is this bastard doing this to me? But go above it. Like, what can I learn? What is the lesson that has been given to me by this person or by the universe or whatever you want to call it to help me grow? Because that's how I saw myself. Yeah, I see better now. I can spot red flags faster. And when somebody wants to offer me, especially when they're at this podcast, I get a lot of invites and things. And I feel right away something is off. The way they talk, the way they bring things to me and say like, well, no, I need to think about this because I listen to my gut feeling. And that's what we stop listening to our hearts and our gut feeling. And it's the key. You know right away if something is off, but you need to be strong and say, no, no, I'm not gonna do this. And yeah, he might get upset or angry, but it's your responsibility to take care of yourself.
I'm literally at that point right now where I've been financially abused heavily. Like I lost 200,000 Canadian dollars on a down payment on my house.
Wow.
They took all of our things because he wasn't paying the mortgage and he was gambling the money. So I lost
Hmm.
my dad's inheritance. I sold my childhood home to get that money for the house. Lost the house, lost our stuff. Basically spent every last bit of my savings, and now I'm just kind of at square one. And that's where I learned that I have to stop people pleasing and I have to put up barriers because I
Yeah.
can't live in it like this anymore. It just isn't working at all. And that's life making all of these, like showing me I can see clearly now more so than I did before. That like once all of that happened, because it all happened like that. It was just like, whoa. And it was a huge wake up call. And it was kind of like in the middle of me doing this podcast, and it really helped me flip the switch on how I go about doing the podcast and how I talk to people. Before I was a little bit more like, oh yeah, tell me your stories, and like, we'll relate and tell war stories. No, now I'm just looking for solutions because we're all looking for solutions, and other people listening to them helps me find solutions in my struggles. So I find sometimes the guests that I have help me out. So I guess, yeah, it's a learning experience, that's for sure, especially when it comes to dealing with people and relationships. And I'm sure anybody that you talk to will have some form of a horror story due to relationships because we all don't necessarily know how to navigate that. And like we're trained to stay. We're trained to stay to keep our families together, no matter what. And it's like, well, now I'm going to literally be living in a tent, so I better stop, you know? So I feel you on all this kind of stuff. And
Oh yeah, I resonate with you so much on things.
I love that you do the
Yeah, it's
pod.
also the comfort zone. I want to add it as well. It's the comfort zone. If we, even though we get abused or we always have this low bank account, it's also trauma. It's also the limiting belief, but it's also comfort because then you don't have to grow. Then you don't have to do things that you're afraid of because you know or you believe that if you go beyond yourself, you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna attract the wrong people, or if you make too much money, you know you're gonna like give it away. But if you start setting boundaries, if you start saying no, if you taking the lead of your own choices, it will not happen because you will take care of your needs, your desires, your dreams. But it starts of taking, or it starts with taking the steps of no, setting boundaries, and then you won't get cheated on, then you don't get hurt. Yeah, people will still hurt you, but it's less because what I've learned was in the relationship and everything, if I said it sooner, like you said, if I ended the relationship sooner, it wouldn't go to hell. I wouldn't feel like years and years like shit crying over her. If I have so much stories. If I went to Mexico, I started a fast food restaurant there. I got bankrupt. If I said sooner to him, this is not gonna work, we're gonna do it differently, it wouldn't happen. It all starts with me saying no to. And I know it can be hard because your desire says, yeah, yeah, let's do this because you see dollar signs or whatever.
You just want
But
to please that
don't
person,
do
so
it.
you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it because you want to do it, like, or you give them the power sometimes because
Exactly.
I don't know, you think that that's the best choice in situation, right? Like you want to make them happy. You don't want the conflict. You're like, oh yeah, you take
Yeah.
control.
Then you
And
say
then
yes just to avoid the conflict.
Mhm. And then when you're like, then you get your anxiety going, and then you do ask them stuff, and then they lash out, and then because I will ask questions over and over and over again because my anxiety goes crazy, that creates conflict. And then I'm like, oh, well, now I shouldn't have said anything, but I really should have said something because you just asked me for $1,000. Like, you know what I mean? So I totally understand it. But so again, what is the name of your podcast just so that anybody out there's listening can tune in?
How to Heart Show. You can find me on YouTube and also on social media. If you just type in my name, you will find me over Google and the website. Also, what I wanted to add is I'm also building a course for men to quit porn, but my course is not about here is the tools and you're done. This is a course that I want to design as this is the start of your healing journey, but this is not gonna be the end. You still have to continue on your healing journey because the diamond will go out, come up, and you see cracks and dust, but you're gonna be the one to just brush it off and make it nice. It's not gonna be as in the beginning. That's
Mhm.
impossible, but you're
I
just gonna
like that
make it
analogy.
nice.
I like that analogy. You start off like as a rough diamond, a diamond in the rough, and then eventually you polish yourself. I love
Exactly.
Before I
And
let you go, is there anything else that you want to say to everybody listening?
yeah, I wanted to finish what I'm gonna do with the course. When I with
Sorry,
the
sorry.
yeah, the thing it's when you're done with going to the course, I also want to give you or the men, I also want to give them space for them to talk. So I will have a group. So once they finish the training or before that, they can come over. I will have weekly calls and we can talk. It doesn't have to be on our feelings all the time. It's just for men to have a safe place to talk about what's going on. And in the beginning, they will need to adjust, they need to see how they feel. But I know deep in my heart that they will eventually open up because they feel safe. They feel safe to open up. And once they're going to share, it's gone. they can release it and they can talk to it. And I've seen, like I said, so many documentaries that men are so afraid to talk because there are no men's group, there are no brotherhoods, or if there are there, there's
Women's, but not men.
no. But now, if you go to your local town, there's no community for men. It's all we all have to connect on the internet. So I said to myself, once I finish this course, I want to create a safe place for men to talk. Even though if you don't pay for the course, I will still let you in because we have to talk more to each other, especially for men. We need to the brotherhood, we need the connection. We need the man talk and not just leash out on our partner because we're having a bad day. You need to vent with your mates, with your guy friends. You need to talk to them. So that's what I want to add also with the course. So I have this podcast, How to Heart Show. I'm building this course and also for men to talk. And what I say before we end, don't give up on yourself. I see a lot of people, they give up on themselves and they think they're not good enough or they're broken or they need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to work on yourself. You need to start healing yourself. You need to learn to set boundaries. You need to learn to say no. You need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to do the things that you're afraid of for you in order to grow. And once you do it more and more and more, it will get easier. In the beginning, it's terrifying, but your body will adjust, like we talked about. Even though it goes to trauma and it holds on, it will also learn and adapt for you to move out of your comfort zone, and it just expand your comfort zone and just do it. And also, don't listen to other people. Don't listen what other people tell you that you need to do. Do what's important for you. If your heart say you want to be a paintist, do that. And don't think when you start painting you're gonna make millions. But take those small steps, and maybe you will get a gallery, or you just do it for yourself. Just do something that makes you happy, and not don't make other people happy. I know it's easy said than done, but do the things for yourself. Find a balance. Have a balance in your life and your personal life and work, but don't neglect yourself, because the only person that you need to have the best relationship is always with yourself. So put yourself always at number one.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true. You need to like love yourself before somebody else can love you.
Self-love.
And you
Yep.
need to also be happy. Like, I mean, I've gone to school for numerous things and they didn't make me happy, so I just kept educating myself on things. And for me, addiction awareness and finding the gaps in the addiction, or just showing families and how they go through it, just doing this podcast and bringing the awareness to it is something that really makes me feel good. Like, I don't know, good, but it's just what I enjoy doing. I am in college for accounting, which isn't really necessarily my favorite thing in the world, but I need to have a job to support myself. But this is what I love to do. So it's a little bit, you know what I mean? But yeah, and I also, because the program that I go to, that's a 12, it's a sort of a 12-step program. It's a support group more so. The men go into a separate room and the women go into a separate room, but it's the only program in Canada that has that. And they don't have any other men's support groups where there's a million women's support groups out there, right? So it's like, and it's not overly popular, this like overly talked about, I guess, this program per se, because it's a support group for anybody that's struggling in life, but it's um religion based. So if you're not religious, it turns a lot of people off. That's why there's not as much traction to it, I suppose you would say. But at the same time, that's the only place that's how I see that gap, because I see the men, my friend and I go together, he and I grew up together. I see how much relief he gets from going and talking to the men and being able to like be a part of a brotherhood. And you know yes, he'll talk to me about his problems, but you can see the release when he actually talks to men about it, not just a girl at the same time. Yeah, he gets my perspective from a woman's side of it, but a man's side of it also. And I don't know what he says in those rooms. I don't ask him. That's his private, personal, whatever. But I see the release afterwards. And so I totally just think it's more needed. And I love that that is what your life's mission has brought you to. And I just wish you the best on this journey. And
Thank you.
I I don't think this will be goodbye. It'll be bye for now because I would love to check in on you once you get that course out so that we can talk a little bit more about that because I think that's important if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for being that you brought me here on the show. But Jasmine, you have such an interesting story, and I would love to have you on the show, on the How to Heart show as well, if you like, because I really, we're on the same page, and I feel like you have such an important story to share. So I really would invite you to be on my show. But also, I want to give you my biggest respect for you doing this, because there's a lot of people say, "Well, I want to do a podcast, but I'm afraid, or I'm afraid to talk about what I'm going through." But you're here, sitting here, doing the podcast, and you took years, decades for you to talk, to share, to open up. So, thank you so much for doing this. I know that takes a lot of courage, a lot of bravery. So, my biggest respect for you, Jasmine, for doing this, and
Same
thank
to
you for doing
you.
it.
Same to you, and I will definitely be in touch with coming on How to Heart Show because I also like to come out from behind the microphone sometimes and tell
Yeah,
my story. That's why I always tell tidbits, I think, while I talk. So I would love to. And yeah, so it's not goodbye, it's just see you later. And thank you
see you
so much for
later.
coming on and sharing today. I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.